Okay, check this place out. I found this place. It's called Panecillo in Ecuador. Oops, car. You got the view of the whole city and it's perfect. Let me just set up the camera right now so you can see. Today we're gonna play around with textures and with shapes and form because this city is apparently it's spelled like in kind of like a straight way. One of the great things about photography is playing with symmetry, and that's what we'll do. So, as for this, today I'm gonna use my Sony A7S with a 50mm lens. It's a 1.5 to cine lens. Actually, it's not a camera lens; it's a cine lens. So it's kind of hard because you have to manually focus, but that's not big of a deal. So I'm using this Sony, and the reason I'm using a 50mm lens is because it has a nice zoom, first of all, and second of all, because the compression that it gives you within the city, like everything just comes a little bit more closer like that, and it looks very, very nice. Right now, since it's a landscape, I'll assume I'll be using like an f8 or f11 aperture. This will let me use a lot of light into the picture, plus everything will be sharp. Plus, I'm using it on manual mode and I'm going to put it on a very high speed. A high speed is around 1/100 seconds or above. I think I'm gonna put it around 1/250 seconds because I really want the sharpness. Like the more I move it like that, the less sharp the picture is. So let's start. Let's see how it looks. But right now the camera is telling me that if I'm putting on manual mode on f8, most probably my speed is gonna be over 320th of a second, basically. And that's kind of fast. It'll let me get very sharp pictures because the shutter is closing very fast, so that won't make my camera move too fast. So let's see how it looks. Nice. Check it out. The same settings. I'm still using an f8 and I'm just letting the camera determine the speed. It's always around like 320 and 250 of a second, so it's basically doing its thing. So but the trick in here, it's actually that you have this city. It's beautiful itself, but the thing is it has a lot of leading lines. It has a lot of circles, it has a lot of straight lines, and you can use that in your favor. Like you can use that as a perfect symmetrical piece for a picture. It is not the same for you to take like wide kind of picture because it's like, yeah, I mean, it's wide, you gotta see the landscape. But if you try this, if you have a zoom lens and you try to do a close-up shot, a middle shot, and a wide shot, you get perfect symmetry in your pictures. This is basically how a good close-up shot might look. Symmetrical shapes, they just look amazing. Like all the lines coming from over there. Try to put them in the middle sometimes, or just try to put them sometimes on the third left or the third right of the picture. Look at this picture. These are some bangers. Just everything's just looking like super nice. Like I really want to show you. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. After all, it was a pretty successful day. Like I took great pictures. I even took a great picture of myself. I think I can make a great tutorial out of this. It's been nice. The place is wonderful, and what is there? Like, I mean, this is just like day one. Just imagine like all of the countries we're gonna go. It's amazing. But yeah, hope you enjoyed this tutorial. Hope you enjoyed these pictures. And yeah, let's go to the edit room.
So I open up Lightroom and I already have these 4 pictures selected. I have one close-up shot, one middle shot, and one wide shot that I want to edit. So I'm going to start off with a close-up shot. I'm going to go to the develop module and I'm going to choose my go-to workflow. I usually start off by adjusting the highlights, the shadows, the whites, the blacks, and later on I choose to adjust the exposure or the contrast if needed. I'm going to increase a little bit the highlights, lower than the shadows, because I really want to add a little bit of contrast to the picture. I'm going to add white, which will essentially raise the whole luminance of the picture. This essentially is a very good way to increase the exposure of the picture without having to touch the exposure tab. Later on, I'm going to add a little bit of contrast, a whole lot of clarity. I really like clarity on my pictures. Add some vibrance so I can have those real colors pop up, and add some saturation. I usually leave the saturation a little bit behind the vibrance. Once I have the picture, I'm going to adjust the white balance to see if I can get the colors I really want for this picture. Adjusting the white balance usually depends on how the picture was taken or the taste of the person. So the way I took this picture was for me to meter out the buildings. I was exposing for the buildings to be perfectly colored with the contrast itself, but that consequently made the highlights, being the sky, a little bit blown out. But I do remember that this sky was a little bit purplish, so I'm gonna grab the gradient filter, I'll add a little bit of tint, purple tint, make it a little bit warmer, and then boost up the whole saturation around a 50%. Then I'm going to use this little key over here, which is kind of a little bit hidden in Lightroom. It's going to be the selective coloring. So I'm going to selectively pick out the color I want for the highlights to be. And it's going to be kind of like a fuchsia color. Look at the sharpness of this picture. It's looking good. I'm just gonna increase the saturation of the blue colors a little bit because there were like very nice patterns in those buildings, those blue buildings. I want to increase the saturation of it. Add a little bit of sharpening. And since these 3 pictures are very look-alike, they were taken on the same place, same time, just a different focal length, I'm just gonna click Control-Shift-S, and I'm going to sync the settings, and that will immediately do a copy paste of the settings and the colors that I use on those 3 pictures. I'm just going to readjust the settings to leave it the way I want it. Use the gradient filter again to bring back the sky that was left out. Add a little bit of tint, some saturation to it too. Use the color picker tool and choose a fuchsia color around it. There we go. One last little thing I want to do to this picture is to edit it in Color Efex Pro. I don't want too much exaggerated contrast of the picture. I just want a little bit of contrast for this picture. Once Color Efex opens up the image, I'm going to readjust the settings to lower the contrast. A very, very low quantity of contrast will do for this picture. Now, once again the picture is already loaded back again into Lightroom, I'm going to color grade it to my taste, and I'm going to use one of my filters. Just going to reset a little bit of the settings so it doesn't look too grungy. And yep, I'm just gonna add a little bit of more saturation and luminance to the sky. And yep, I think that's about it. And yes, this is how I would normally color grade a picture. It's looking very, very nice, up to my taste. Now, moving on to the one with the twilight. This, I'm just not gonna like do too much setting to it. I'm just gonna apply a filter directly to it and just readjust the settings starting from that point. I think I'm gonna use this one that says chata. I'm gonna lower a little bit of the highlights, readjust the shadows, bring up the white. See how the luminance of this picture goes a lot brighter once you play around with the whites without having to touch the exposure. It's pretty nice. Lower the blacks, add a lot of clarity, boost a little bit the vibrance, and I just right about just a little bit behind of the vibrance. And let's see, do we add a little bit of sharpening? Yeah, I think so. It won't kill too much of the picture. Let me check out. Yep, it's looking nice. And yep, that's basically it. It's very easy color grading. I'm very glad I could show you my workflow for the color grading. And if you have any questions or any recommendation or anything you want to learn from the photography tips that I'm giving you, make sure to comment in below, click like and subscribe, and I'll be right back. Take care.